You are far more powerful than you've been led to believe. The power of your word and the ability to speak things into existence is not understood by most people. But I had an experience in 2018 that made me realize this power to literally speak things into your reality. And if you're in a place right now where you're not realizing or you don't understand why bad things keep happening to you, why you keep attracting the same relationships, why it's so hard to break out of scarcity, then this video is for you. So let's get right into it. My journey started in 2018 when I knew something was wrong. I was working as a paramedic, working late night shifts, working overnight shifts, pushing myself to the limit, feeling burnt out, but not knowing if there was a solution or a way out. Until I became aware of my own voice, something that I was not owning at the time. And when I began to use my voice in this way, with this 4,000-year-old, maybe even older than that, ancient Toltec wisdom that I'm going to share with you today, that's when things began to really shift for me. That's when I was literally realizing that I was the creator of my own reality, that I could create as I was created, that we oftentimes underestimate our own voice, and even being part of a control system, of institutions, a way of living, a way of being, are almost brainwashing ourselves to speak things that we do not really want. So, this Toltec wisdom comes from this book that you may have heard of called The Four Agreements, written by this guy, Don Miguel Ruiz, who comes from a family line of the Toltecs, who are an ancient tribe, an ancient civilization that came even before the Mayans. They're their own separate civilization. And they were able to preserve over many generations till today this ancient knowledge, which basically comes down to four agreements. Now, today we're going to talk about one, and that is to be impeccable with your word. This ancient civilization realized our ability to actually speak, and they were able to also recognize that reality is simply just an illusion, but it is an illusion that they can control and influence. Think about all the things that we say throughout the day. How many words come out of our mouth, right? And words are simply an expression of our thoughts and our feelings. These two things combined, the thoughts and the feelings, are what literally shapes our reality and is able to either repel or attract opportunities towards us. Also, in speaking things, we train our subconscious mind. We impress the very things we say as an affirmation. Literally, everything you speak is an affirmation, whether you want it or not, whether you consciously want it or not. And you may be in this sort of mindset where you realize you want to change your reality. You want to leave the job that you're in. You want to leave the relationship you're in. You don't want to attract this certain type of person into your life. Yet you find it just keeps happening again and again and again, even though you're consciously using whatever you have, right? Manifestation techniques, belief shifting, you're doing all the stuff, you're meditating, still it's not working out. That's because we have these little phrases that we say that we oftentimes don't realize the impact of. And in becoming conscious, in becoming aware of them, we can begin to shape our reality. You see, even Florence Scovel Shinn, who wrote a book over 100 years ago, is a very successful woman, and I would say is pretty skilled in the ability to manifest things in her reality, said words carry a creative power. Words carry a creative power. You have the ability to speak things into existence. And I think speaking is the highest form of expression. You'll only speak things that you feel with conviction, right? So how do we begin shifting our reality, right? In addition to visualization, you're meditating, you're doing all these things. The first thing here is realizing your destructive speech. And this is what they talk about in the Four Agreements, is like your using destructive language, becoming aware of destructive language that we're using. We sometimes joke about things. We say, oh yeah, I'm always going to be broke, or we don't obviously want to be broke all the time, but we make, people make jokes about it, kind of to commiserate with other people, right? Misery loves company. And when we do that, we're not only affirming it, but also realize the universe does not have the same kind of sense of humor that we have. And when you're speaking things, it's a very serious act. To treat each word as with a high level of importance. So let me give you some examples. Let's say you run a business and you're always saying, I'm struggling to make sales. I can never make a sale. And you're kind of commiserating with your colleagues, right? You're all sitting in a break room saying, man, it's so fucking hard to make sales right now. Not realizing that that is the very thing that's going to perpetuate even less sales for you. Because that's exactly what you want. You're speaking it to the highest degree of expression. Speaking things is higher, in my opinion. Speaking things carries more weight than actually even thinking about things or feeling things. Especially when you say it with gravitas or emotion. That's when it carries a lot of weight. It has a lot of influence over your reality. So how could we flip this? Instead of saying I'm struggling to make sales, you could say the opposite and say and feel it, and even hear in that inner voice, I make sales effortlessly. And not to just blindly, like a robot, be repeating it, I make sales effortlessly. But in that moment, when you have the opportunity to speak, when your coworkers are saying, I'm struggling to make sales, you can flip the script. And this takes courage, right? Because people are going to look at you like, man, you're so detached from reality. You're saying that we're all struggling to make sales, that you're making sales effortlessly. No, but you must believe it at your core. That inner voice, right? When you are in the shower and you're thinking thoughts, and you have your imagination running wild, who is that person? Who is it? Is it you? Is it someone else? Is it your higher self? Is it God? Who is that voice in your head? That voice is able to speak, just like you can speak. And when you make that voice speak, I make sales effortlessly, internally, internalizing it, using your thoughts and your feelings, thoughts and your emotions. That's when you will begin to see the results reflect in your own reality. Because our reality around us is just an illusion, but it is also a reflection of our own internal states, the things we say, think, and feel. So when I say you can speak things into existence, how exactly does this even work? You affirm something using this inner voice. You spend even a minute every day thinking, feeling, and speaking to yourself with this own internal voice, internalizing the thing that you desire. It doesn't take a lot of time, and you don't need to put an amount of excess importance on it. A minute a day to internalize it. And when you do this, you're going to begin hearing your voice echoing something back to you. Maybe a voice that even sounds like you, but you know is not you. Information that comes from beyond time and space. This is the sort of infinite expansive awareness, this right brain knowledge that we have access to. Because your brain is simply a radio receiver antenna. It can receive information that comes from beyond you. But you must prompt it and you must impress your subconscious mind with the things that you would like to be inspired or move towards. And this is where I have a sort of problem with the spiritual community and manifestation, where people think and say, well, you just need to keep affirming these things and they'll just magically show up in your life, right? Money is just going to show up out of nowhere. I don't believe that, and I feel like it's almost a disempowering position to be in. What I believe is you can speak things into your existence internally and be inspired to take certain actions. And when you take action, when you have movement towards those things, when you listen to that intuitive voice, that whisper in your head, and you take action despite the fear, despite the resistance, and you actually move towards non-resistance, you just move towards it, then you will begin to see results reflect in your reality, which will then give you more confidence to speak greater things into existence, which will give you more intuitive insights that you can move towards. At the core of this cycle, what you must have, this missing secret ingredient, is faith. If you don't have faith in yourself, and you don't have faith in a higher power above you, a divine force, the universe, whatever may have you, working in your favor, co-conspiring with you, then this process can become difficult because you're going to get these intuitive insights and you might even be blocked. You see, I have a Twitter account as well. I'm in the crypto community. I do finance. I do a bunch of other things. And for the longest time, I've been called to go live on Twitter and make a video and just share some inspired vision, something that has to do with metaphysics and finance and spirituality all put together. That's a sort of vision that I've held for myself. And I've never been able to quite express it because I always stop myself short. But yesterday, just yesterday, I felt this intuitive whisper in the shower. I said, that's enough. I'm going to move towards this with complete non resistance. I set up my camera, I shot the video, and within about 2 hours, I had about 30,000 views on this post. It's probably one of my best posts that I've ever had across any social media. And it's because I took radical action towards it. And today, I'm waking up with more confidence. I'm waking up with more faith in this path that I'm going down, in my purpose. And this is the cycle, my friend. So if you've been stuck for a little while, you don't know why things are happening to you. I mean, if you're going around saying, things like I'm struggling to make sales or I always mess things up, you're saying you're always messing things up and you believe it, you think it, and you feel it, you're going to continue messing things up. I'm a klutz. Now that's a whole identity you've taken on and you're affirming it with your words. So let this be a call to action. Maybe write down some of the things you say. At the end of the day, take 10 minutes to even reflect on what you've been saying and see how you can shape and change your language, to have more consciousness with the way you're speaking, to be more impeccable with your word, and to even take a minute every day to internally affirm using your inner voice, combining your thoughts and your feelings together to speak things into existence. Use your faith to follow your intuition. And until next time, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, by the way. We talk about metaphysics, insights. I'm a student of the esoteric, just like many of you are. Until next time, peace.